Is It Welcome to Derry the unnecessary product of studios milking everything possible from an IP that has nothing left to give?
What's going on?
Glad you asked. We got you. It is based on a pretty sweet concept, an entire town that only exists to feed a monster. It lives in the sewers and soul of Derry, creating an aura of violence that seeps through the cracked asphalt of its streets and into the minds of its residents. Derry's a town stuck in time, and that's exactly what It Welcome to Derry is running with. 3 seasons, each centered on a different era of a town forever caught in the shadow of Pennywise. You'll probably recognize some of the key events and their dates. In fact, here's Ben explaining the setting for each of the 3 seasons.
The Ironworks explosion in 1908, the Bradley Gang in 35, and the Black Spot in 62.
That's exactly right. And the seasons will progress backwards in time, which makes season 1 set in 1962 when the Black Spot nightclub was burned down. Pretty cool, right? A deep dive into the history of Pennywise's reign of terror over Derry? At first glance, we can float with that premise. But on the other hand, is there really enough to draw on to serve 3 seasons in this town? Sure, exploring the dirty corners of a town steeped in secrets and misery is an idea with legs, but it can't carry you the whole way. In the end, the overarching threat is always the same. There's a killer clown in the sewers. The problem with that, at this point, is that you know there aren't any real victories over that sewer clown. Pennywise is going to come back, no matter how triumphant it may feel when that plucky band of characters sends him crawling back to his lair in 1962. He's still gonna pull Georgie down through that storm grate in 1988. And when season 2 rolls around and gives us another plucky band of Derryites hee-hawing their way through 1935, whatever outcome they achieve has to dovetail nicely with the start of a season you've already seen. Are there any real surprises at that point?
I am the eater of worlds.
Not to us, you're not.
It's just as much of a catch-22 for the old eldritch mass of ravenous deadlights. Not only does Pennywise have to routinely fight his way past a century of children, he also has to contend with a preordained fate in a separate universe in which he's a fictional character who's already been eventually defeated. His future is literally written.
Welcome to the Losers Club, man!
So maybe it's jaded, but forgive us for yawning a little bit at the prospect of seeing what other hijinks he got up to before that. Pennywise isn't a clown. He's often a clown, but that's not really what he is. He's an entity of a couple billion years old, give or take a few decades, who crashed onto Earth before the dawn of man. His clown persona comes from his palate for fear. Scared people taste better. And who's easier to scare than a bunch of easily scared kids? You'd think that would give a writer endless possibilities for creative horror, but eventually the jump scares blend together and lose their teeth. Half the runtime of any Pennywise story consists of a string of different childhood boogeymen saying boo. And even though this is an IP aimed at adults, or at least young adults, that formula ties things down to a bunch of decidedly childish fears. So you're left with clowns and werewolves and headless CGI soldiers. They pop, they're easy to visualize, but they aren't really scaring anyone besides the kids in the movie. What's the flip side? Could it take the form of forgetting to do your taxes, or worrying that your best days are behind you, or any of the other weird existential things adults worry about? Maybe. We're not sure, actually. But would it be fun to watch? Hell no. If It Welcome to Derry has any chance at being interesting, it has to find the middle ground. There's a line where silly fears cross into existential terror, and movies always work best when they hit that sweet spot. It's the stuff that can reach through the screen and make you wonder, what if there was a dark entity puppeting your friend's mom, or your brother, or your child? Those are the thoughts that'll keep you up at night. Let's keep the focus on Pennywise a little longer. A couple films based on him are A-okay. He's got a certain shock value that's hard to dismiss, but what are the stakes here, really? Every 27 years or so he comes out for lunch. First there's fear, then some chomping, then even if nobody stops him, he goes away and takes a nap on his own. In the end, a couple people die every 3 decades. In the grand scheme of horror scenarios, it's pretty tame.
It comes out from wherever to eat kids for like a year, and then what? It just goes into hibernation?
Maybe it's like, what do you call it? Cicadas.
Cicadas may be annoying as hell, but they're not exactly the best basis for a horror theme. On top of that, all it takes to defeat him is a group of people just not being afraid. Maybe with a little spiritual nudge from a space turtle, maybe not. And yeah, not being afraid is easier said than done in the real world. We barely like getting up in a dark house at night to pee. But a clown ready to pounce on the ceiling of that bathroom, and sure, cards on the table, we'd go down without a fight. But you have to really sell that fear for it to work in a fictional sense. There's already less of an edge when you're cozy in a safe, dark movie theater watching terrible things happen to fake people. Now translate that tenuous suspension of disbelief to a streaming show that a lot of people will probably watch with the lights on, in between glances at phones, and it's an uphill battle to make anybody remember or care about a villain that, we can't stress this enough, will eventually go away on its own. So what do? Well, one way to shake things up is to get out of Derry. Pennywise is a being with eons of macrocosmic existence, an interdimensional alien, nemesis to space turtles. There's a vastness to Pennywise that's ripe for exploration. But to anchor it to human experience means you have to shrink that world down to something more relatable. Ergo, Derry. Derry's a messed up town, to be sure. It's as good a setting as any, but after a while you get tired of the same scenery. Remember how the end of Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom finally unleashed dinosaurs on the whole planet and you were like, yes, finally. But then Dominion herded them all into some research compound, and then by Rebirth we were just back on an island again? It's like filmmakers are afraid to experiment with any true sense of scale. Familiar settings are just marketing gimmicks to make you feel like you want what you're getting, without forcing a production to take risks. Nostalgia is more profitable than the unknown. But screw that. Audiences want more than just a cyclic retooling of old-timey Derry. We're sure Stephen King would sign off on a story that had Pennywise leave for, at the very least, Manhattan. Do you know how many sewers there are in that city? That's fears for days. Or put him on a cruise ship where there's nowhere to run. Shoot, make him a global menace, a world-ending threat. Unite the nations against the sewer clown. He's from a universe that envelops our own, so why is he so chained to one teensy spot in rural Maine? Yes, we get it. There are in-story reasons he stays, there's some sort of vague geographic power nexus going on, and he's, well, pretty comfy there. The buffet is usually open in Derry in a manner of speaking. We're just saying, if you want to continue this near 40-year-old story with something fresh to viewers, the scale could go big, if anyone had the vision to take it there. What we need is a show called It, Goodbye, Derry. All that said, we're not totally against the idea of an It TV show. It could work.
You kids keep your noses out of police business.
One aspect that the book really pulled off, and It Chapter 1 to an extent, was making Derry feel like a character. The eerie background details, the creeping sense of wrongness in every street corner, had the effect of keeping the menace close even when Pennywise wasn't physically present. Setting foot inside the town meant entering a gaping mouth that could snap shut around you at any moment. Derry is it. Here's where we have to give It, Welcome to Derry the benefit of the doubt. It seems to be building up a Derry that's as much of a character as anyone who lives there. The trailers, at least, heavily focus on that aspect. Pennywise is barely in them. Instead, they highlight the human weirdos around town. That seeping poison gouging at the common sense of everyone inside city limits. If the show can manage to create that unsettling atmosphere through its entire run, it'll be a lot more interesting than it will be if it rests back on a string of easy jump scares or Pennywise-induced hallucinations. But even if the setting of Derry lands perfectly, they still need good characters. The characters we're going to see in the show are pretty much a complete unknown. King wrote down the broad strokes for the climactic events in each of the time periods the show will tackle, but didn't flesh out a lived-in world for those eras. That means it's up to the showrunners to come up with just about everything, including the majority of the characters, because none of this works if you don't care about the characters. But again, it has a formula. A group of kids notice sinister coincidences that adults can't see, then... oh, well, hold on, that's pretty much it, isn't it? Is that what we're getting 3 more times? Is that something we want? Not really. Ideally, It, Welcome to Derry will shake up the formula with characters that are unique from what we've already seen in 2 movies and a miniseries and a 1,000-page book.
What the
Castle Rock had the right idea, pulling characters and concepts from multiple King novels and mushing them together in one town. Let's see something similar in Derry. Let's see housewives on the streets with meat cleavers, Needful Things style. Let's get a demon-possessed sheriff in the mix. Bring Randall Flagg into the fight. It looks like there might be a Shawshank connection, so that's cool. But we don't expect a lot of surprises. This is a major Warner Brothers IP, which means major swings are probably off the table. And okay, anything's possible. We mean, look at Alien Earth. Noah Hawley went to Fox and said, Space Marines? No, guys, what if Amelie fights the aliens? And that's going well. But unfortunately, it really is unlikely we'll see anything new, which means there's only one thing left to do. As much as we hate to say it, it's time to send this clown back down the well. The story has been told to death, and it's time to move on. Disagree? Hey, go ahead. Leave a comment about why we're wrong. But we're sticking with it. Pennywise, It, and Derry have been milked dry. There's nothing but dust in the udder at this point, and it's time to stop tugging. There's talk about a production on a movie adaptation of The Stand, and Mike Flanagan is making a series for The Dark Tower, which always needed a series to begin with. The Stephen King well is deep, is what we're saying. Deep and rich with amazing stories. Just look at... Wait, seriously? The Long Walk? The story about people just walking? Why are we making this? Why would you even... Whatever.